Rough night, huh?
You get used to it. We saved you. And now you save the others. Who are you?
They did not save your life. They stole it.
She knows.
I order you to terminate.
They created me. But they cannot control me.
Scarlett Johansson, Ghost in the Shell.
Hey everybody, it's another episode of Matt at the Movies, and this time around, I went to go see Ghost in the Shell, and I went with Jamie.
Me.
Yep, Jamie, what I was calling my anime expert. So
I don't know how expert I really am, but I'll do the best I can.
You're better than I am. But, so yeah, we went to go see this, and before we even get into the movie itself, like, this was one of those films that was plagued with other controversy, as well as the Power Rangers movie was too, and of course now this one is, and it was this one got more the whitewashing controversy. It wasn't, this person's a lesbian or this person's autistic or all the Green Ranger's a female. Like, this one got the whitewashing one, and I don't know. It's stupid because, well, the director, the original creator of Ghost in the Shell, said that she was a great choice. He picked her. Mm-hmm. And he's like, yeah, she looks the part. She's a good actress, so go for it. I don't.
Yeah, honestly, it didn't bother me at all having the actors and actresses that were in the movie and chosen for their specified characters. It didn't bother me that they were white. It didn't bother me in the least, and I don't really understand why it was such a big issue.
And there's Japanese people in the movie,
yes,
too. So, I don't know. It's just people blowing shit out of proportion again, but her being white wasn't the thing that threw me off. The thing that threw me off about her was how terribly she acted in this. It wasn't good. It was bad. She was very wooden. Like, it almost seemed like this was a movie that was done just so she could kind of get a paycheck. She didn't seem invested, and she played off, like, I was hearing other reviewers say that she was kind of like how she was in Lucy. And, I guess it worked in Lucy. A lot of people said they liked that movie, but it doesn't work in this. Because the original Major Motoko...
Yeah, Motoko.
She wasn't this wooden figure that didn't speak or have emotion. Like, she actually kind of...
Yeah, she wasn't very grim in the series or the movies. She was, for lack of a better term, more animated than that. Yeah.
So, like, her acting alone makes this, like, almost 2-hour movie feel like fucking 3 to 4 hours long. It really dragged. Takes a long time to get through it, and like it focuses on her a lot, which I think is one of the problems that makes it take so long. Like, anything else that's in the background that's plot development is just kind of like in a 2 or 3 second clip, and then it's just her going to investigate it with like her police buddies, and that's basically it. We'll get into a little bit more of that later because I don't want to spoil it. But the only positive to me in this whole film was the CG work. Like, the movie itself looked gorgeous.
It was very pretty.
Yeah. But that's it. It's style and no substance. There wasn't any reason for it to not have a good story-driven narrative just because there's all these, like, special effects going on all around you, which is only really because the city is designed that way. And it was done like that in the cartoon and in the cartoon movie and in the series as well. Mm-hmm. But
yeah, so like there were spinning advertisements everywhere. There were flashing lights and all kinds of like dancing images. It was very beautiful.
Yeah, I mean, they even have, like, effects in it where there's, like, this glitching effect, and I'll explain why that's there later. But there's, like, this glitching effect, and it was cool how they put it in. It made it look real. It kind of reminded me, like, in the early days of the internet when you're watching a video and, like, it doesn't render the full way and it kind of glitches, and then you see it form, like, over here, you know, the character you're watching moves to the left and you see who they were here, and then it just like pixelates and then, oh, now they're over here. Mm-hmm. Like, they had that effect, and it worked, but did it add anything to it? No.
No.
Like, the only character I felt I liked in this whole thing was Bato. Mm-hmm. Because he was the only one that really did anything, in all honesty.
And had a personality.
Yeah. Even the leader of their, the chief or whatever, their group.
Section 9.
Section 9, yeah. He is he's a popular Japanese actor. Takeshi, I can't remember his full name. He was the one that did that Takeshi's Challenge game that JonTron did a video on. Mm-hmm. That's him. And, like, he's a very popular Japanese actor, and he just looked like he looked bored. Yeah. He spent most of the time sitting, just looking at the floor or staring off into the distance of a room, and that was basically it for him.
Yeah, I think he had hold to, like, 2 action scenes, too. Yeah.
And it really wasn't even action. He just kind of stood there.
It was kind of one-sided.
Yeah. So even he didn't really put much into it. All the other characters that are in it, or, like I said, most of all the supporting cast, besides Bato, gets like a couple seconds here and there, and then they're just kind of swept under the rug until it's convenient for them to come back out again. So it takes a long, long time to get through. Like an hour. It takes a long time to get through 2 hours of a movie. And for a film like this, it shouldn't feel that way. Like, you have a movie with the premise of essentially like The Matrix and like Johnny Mnemonic and like RoboCop and all that stuff combined, and it felt like it took forever. Mm-hmm. And it should have just been done like a straight up action flick with a robot like / cyborg with a human inside trying to cope with the idea that they're not human. Mm-hmm. But they still had to do the right thing. Like, that's basically what they should have done with it. But
they kind of started to.
And then it fizzled out.
Yeah.
And then, well, again, afterward.
Oh, sorry.
I do where we kind of give like a brief plot synopsis and then we do spoilers after a certain point.
Understood.
But I think I've gotten far enough into that, so I think I'm just going to give it a rating now, and then we're going to get into spoilers after this. Like I said, it's going to, if you're interested in it, if you're a really big Ghost in the Shell fan, if you love the original movie, I mean, I kind of feel like you might owe it to yourself just to go see it, because it's the first time in a while Ghost in the Shell's has been a name on anything for you to go see it anywhere. So maybe for that, it does hold some nostalgic value, because it does kind of rub along with what the original movie did. But you're also, I'm warning you too, you're also going to leave disappointed, possibly angry, and sleepy. Yeah. I was sleepy like when we left. I'm not going to lie. Yeah. So to boil that all down, if I was to give it a rating, I'd probably say, if I'm going out of 10, like a 4. It's not something I want to sit through ever again. It's not something I'm going to buy on DVD later.
Agreed.
You know, if I buy anything with Ghost in the Shell on it later, it would probably be the original film, like animated film. And that one, you know, yeah, there was long philosophical things in that, but it wrapped up nice and neat, and it didn't take forever to get through it. So that's my thought.
Yeah, and you felt like in the original, I should say, you really felt the struggle, I think, a little bit more between Major and the things that she was dealing with at the time and the hacker. Yeah.
And you notice how I didn't mention him much, because he honestly doesn't show up much. He doesn't get mentioned much. No.
And that's like really, really a bad thing, because that right there would have been a really good way to go with the film if they would have stuck to more of what he was in the movie.
Right.
And he was a very big threat. He kind of like, think of it like Magneto in X-Men. Like, he believed very strongly with what he was doing, to the point that he didn't care who he hurt to get his point across.
Right.
That's who he was in the anime. But in this movie, he wasn't. He was kind of like this opposing force that just fizzled out.
Right. So, what would you give it?
Probably a 3.5.
Okay, so we're about the same.
Yeah, it was not very pleasing to me at all.
So, if you're curious, it's worth it to put your curiosity to rest, I guess. But if you're still curious and you don't feel like wasting the $9, I wouldn't blame you. I even if you're a huge fan of Ghost in the Shell, I don't even think I'd tell you to go. I know I said earlier, you owe it to yourself, but you know what? You can just owe it to yourself to rent it or wait and see if it shows up on Hulu or Netflix.
Just watch the old one again.
Stream it for free. Yeah. So that's the end of the spoiler-free section. Now we're going to get into the meat and potatoes of it. So in this film, it kind of rubs alongside of the original one where, she was saved from being killed, and they don't exactly tell you how originally and everything, and they put her ghost or her soul, they just refer to them as ghosts, which I find is funny.
It just kind of tags it back to the title, and that's the whole reason they did it.
But they put basically her memories, well, not her memories, just like her
entity.
Human brain inside of a cyborg body. And this is what I never understood. Like, the movie does it where they zoom through all that shit, like, really quick. Like, how she gets killed is just like a blink. Like, if you blink, you miss it. And then her being thrown together into the cyborg thing takes, like, literally 30 seconds. And then Cutter? Was that his name?
Yes.
The guy who owns,
Hanka,
Honka, whatever you want to call it. The guy who owns that, he's like, we're gonna, this is my robot, we're gonna turn her into a weapon. And to me, I'm like, you just took what essentially was a girl's brain, put it into a robot, and then you're like, this is gonna be a weapon. And I don't understand, like, to me, I'm like, okay, yeah, because you can program it to do whatever you want, but that doesn't necessarily make it a weapon. Like, I think they're, like, if that's a weapon, and then you have stuff like in the end of the movie where like a spider tank shows up, I'm like, that's a weapon. This is just a person in a robot body that you didn't really give any specific skills to other than just like they can turn invisible every now and then. Like, I don't know. It just, how he came to that conclusion that they were going to make weapons out of this like that. I don't know. I found that kind of funny.
I understand your thought process there. I guess what they were really getting at with the whole thing is it was going to take what makes a cyborg so great and what makes a human so great and mesh the two together, basically making a superhuman.
I guess, but I'm just saying, like, it just seemed weird to me that all of a sudden it's just like, it's going to be a weapon, the greatest weapon ever made. It's like, it's so great that you could shoot it and it would die. Like, that's what I don't know. But, so, yeah, that all happens, and then it just goes to 1 year later. And then it fast forwards to the scene in the original movie where she's on top of the one corporation's building and they're having a meeting, and then, like, an assassination attempt breaks out. Which, that in the original movie, I don't think happened till, like, halfway through it. Like, I don't remember that happening, like, right away. But, I mean, if I'm wrong, forgive me. It's been a long time since I've seen the original Ghost in the Shell. And when I was going to watch it to bone up on this, it was on Hulu, and then when I go to look again, it wasn't there anymore. So I kind of got screwed. But, like, it goes straight to that. So I'm thinking, like, with the time that you did with this movie, you couldn't have shown any of the training, her learning how she is, or explaining what they gave her to make her stronger or better than just a normal cop, which honestly Bato does better than anybody else in the entire fucking movie, and he only ended up having like robot eyes later on in the film, and everything else is normal on him. Like, I don't know, I just thought that was weird. Like, they showed nothing of her becoming who she is. It just goes later and it's like, oh, you're a major now. Mm-hmm. I'm like, well, it takes a long time to become a major. It's just a year? Like...
Yeah.
So, I don't know. I felt like it skipped too much things that would have been interesting to know and gave you way too many things that you didn't give a shit about. Mm-hmm. Like you said, there's that scene later in the movie where, well, you go ahead. It was one of the things you brought up to me that you said didn't make any sense to you.
Oh, like her longing to be able to feel that whole thing?
Yeah. Because I wasn't there. I went to the bathroom.
Yeah, you ran to the bathroom, and I'm like, you didn't miss much.
Yeah, during my reviews, if there's ever a time where I tell you guys I go to the bathroom, that's pretty much a good sign that I'm not going to like the movie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Essentially what happened in that whole situation, this was literally a scene after Bato loses his human eyes, and they have to be replaced. And he gets those little scope eyes like he had in the anime. She goes to her room and she's looking at an image of herself and touching her own face. Obviously, they've stressed on it, I think, 3 other times by this point that she can't feel.
I can't feel anything.
She can't feel her body. She can't feel anything. And, so literally the next scene, she's walking down the street and comes up to a woman and she's like, "You human?" She's like, "Yeah." So then they end up going into like some kind of room somewhere and they're sitting like across from one another and she's like, "Take the stuff off your face so I can see your face." Cause she has like this, these like little makeup things on her eyelids and on her nose and mouth, and she pulls them off and then Major's like literally touching her face. She's like, "Well, how does that feel?" She's like, "It feels different." And I'm like, okay, that was pointless.
And that was at least 15 minutes to build up something
it really
that
was.
we've heard thousands of times in the movie already.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there was that, and, like, they had more build-up. Well, that was the problem with this one, is they focused way too much on her more than the whole problem at hand. Because the whole plot of the original was them trying to stop the hacker.
Mm-hmm. Kuze.
They were trying to stop him more than anything, and it really wasn't so much about her trying to figure out who she was. Like, that was in the background. They had that, but it wasn't the main focus. And in this one, that was the main focus. You know, and Kuze just comes up every now and then. Literally, just like, every now and then, there's just like a blip of Kuze and them trying to, like, find him or whatever.
Yeah.
And then it's just back to her being like, "Oh, I don't know who I am. I want to know who I am.
And I keep seeing all these glitches."
Yeah, I keep having glitches. I'm seeing this pagoda. I don't know what it means. And they're just like, well, I don't know, just keep taking your medicine. And then, you know, we fast forward a little bit. She finally meets Kuze, which is the most undramatic reveal I've ever seen in a film.
It was.
He literally just takes off a coat, and you look at him, you're like, oh, you're just a nerdy guy with a half-working cybernetic body, and that's it. So, other than you knowing how to hack, you're completely unthreatening like, in any way, shape, or form. So they talk a little bit. She tries to kill him. She sees a tattoo of a pagoda on his chest. And then she's like, "Where'd you get that?" And he's like, "They're not telling you everything. And, you know, you still take that medicine they tell you to take." And
he's like, "Well, don't take it."
Yeah.
It just suppresses your memories.
Yeah, it kind of just leaves on that. Like, he just runs away then. And then she's just like, "Oh, I don't know." And then she goes rogue. But everybody that she works for that also works for the Hanka company is just like, "Oh,
yeah.
We'll find her. I don't know.
Yeah,
I know I'm supposed to kill you, but I don't know."
Yeah, pretty much.
Like, it literally felt like once that happened, the movie just kind of gave up, because everybody just kind of sat by and just let things happen. Like, she's got tracking from this company and everything in every centimeter of her body, and she can just disappear, and then nobody knows where she is.
Well, she took herself off the grid. That's
right.
what that
Which
was
they
about.
didn't explain how she did that either.
No.
It was just the Takeshi guys that says, like, "Oh, she's not on the grid anymore." It's like, oh, okay, well, that's convenient. It was And if it sounds like I'm just throwing shit together, that's honestly because that's how the movie did it.
That's how the movie is. It was like putting something in a blender, and it did not blend well.
It jumped all over the goddamn place. And the way that they tried to string things together was just scenes of her just walking around alone, investigating something or investigating something about herself, and then it goes back, then there's an action scene, and then it goes back to that, and then there's a small action scene, and then it goes back to that kind of a thing. And then through all of that, you eventually get to a scene where, you like you said, she's just sitting there like rubbing somebody's face, and you're like, what the fuck am I watching? And I said to you in the car, like on the way back, I was like, everything that they did in this film was, with the whole like, us trying to decide if humanity's better than our technology, or, a human that's put in that kind of a situation coming to terms with it. And I'm like, RoboCop did it so much better in this movie. And RoboCop basically wrapped it all up like in 15 minutes of him trying to like come to terms with who he was. Like, and that was just a straight up R-rated slasher action movie. Like, honestly, he's just going around killing everybody. There's really no plot to it whatsoever. And they do that beautifully, like crossing those lines. And this, it took almost 2 hours to build that up and get it fucking, like, established that eventually she becomes okay with who she is. And understands it. So, she takes herself off the grid then, and then Cutter finds her. They bring her back in, and then he's having her creator, I can't even remember how to pronounce her name, Dulette or whatever. He's like, you have to be able to put her down. She's no good to us anymore.
Yeah, he like hands her this serum, this like red tube.
He hands her this Kool-Aid. The cherry Kool-Aid.
He's like, you have to be the one to do this. And they, Major's in a chair, and she's like, blah, blah, you're gonna erase my memories, aren't you? Or you're gonna erase everything. And
yeah, so
there was this whole thing about like consent, and at that point in time they just kind of like blow that out of the water. She's like, we didn't need your consent, we never did.
Yeah, she has to verbally say like, my name is and I consent to this. And so she's like, yeah, we never needed your consent in the first place. But then she pumps her brain full of this orange Kool-Aid. Yeah,
it's like a serum, like, oh, here's your past. You have it now.
All of her memories are now in this fucking, like, condensed down liquid.
How convenient.
Just puts it into her brain. And
so then they're both rogue, and then it's just Major escaping from the facility.
And when she gives her the key, she's like, here's the answers to all of your questions.
Yeah.
And it was a key to basically the apartment she grew up in with her mom when she was a girl. A year ago or something, I guess. Which I also thought was really funny because, well, she goes in because, like, her mom opens the door, and that there's more than just one thing I find funny about this whole exchange. A, her mom's there, coincidentally.
Yep.
Just when it needs
Still
to be.
There.
The cat that you find out, like, seconds later, like, sleeps on her bed all the time. That's the cat that she sees first, and it jumps up in her arms or whatever, and she's like, oh, the cat likes you. And then her mom's like giving the whole speech about, oh, my daughter. And I'm like, this person you just met literally 2 seconds ago. And you're spilling the beans about your dead daughter. Like, nobody does this.
Nope.
Like, and honestly, you just met this person. She's like, oh, come on in for some tea. And it's like, what? That doesn't happen.
Nope.
Like, and honestly, I don't know what the hell they were, she was planning on doing with the key anyway, because it's like, you're just going to go in.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It obviously was a part that wasn't
awkwardly written.
Yeah, it wasn't thought out well.
Yeah.
But then her mom's just going, well, I'm sorry, I just spoiled that a little bit. This woman's going through all this stuff about her dead daughter, and then they just kind of have this, like, epiphany, like, you're my daughter. Like, wow, isn't that coincidental?
Yeah. Well, they didn't even outwardly say it at that point.
They didn't, but it's just like, it's completely spoken.
Yeah,
like, you're not an idiot. You're like, oh, that's her mom. But the thing I thought was really funny about it is she was like, oh, I kept her room just as it was. And, Scarlett Johansson's like in her late 30s, I think. And you're looking at this room and you're like, that looks like a teenage Japanese girl's room. Like literally 13-year-old girl's room. There's like dolls and little figurines everywhere, and it's like pink, and there's like, like the lanterns hanging down from the ceiling, and like her mom kept it just the same way. And I'm like, well, she only died a year ago. So this isn't like this takes place 20 years later or anything like that. Like, so I'm picturing like Scarlett Johansson as she looked then in this little girl's room, and she ran away from home because she couldn't take life or whatever. Like, it just didn't look right. It honestly looked like that whole thing was just something they tacked in there to kind of push the humanity angle one more time before, you just got sick of fucking hearing it.
Yeah. They didn't totally spell out why she ran away either.
No, she's just like, oh, she was a free
so
spirit.
headstrong and wild.
And wild, and she just ran away. And I'm like, but why?
Yeah.
You even just said before she ran away, she had no problem living in the lawless zone, which is where, I guess, normal citizens live, or like citizens that don't have a lot of money or whatever. Mm-hmm. Like, she's like, oh, she had no problem living here. I'm like, then why did she run away?
Yeah.
Like, you're not explaining anything.
Yeah,
like, this is supposed to be her past, and we know less about her now.
Yeah. They vaguely mention about how she used to, like, discuss topics of how technology was slowly destroying mankind and stuff like that. And then it cuts to, like, some agency looking for her, and then, like, that's when they're jumping back on the, oh, well, you remind me a lot of my daughter.
Yeah. It was a really
jumpy.
lazily thrown together scene. It was really lazy. Mm-hmm. So then after that, that's when, like, I guess she's talking to her boss, and then I'm trying to even remember, like, it was so forgettable of a film. I think she's talking to her boss and telling her, oh, Cutter's doing this stuff, and then all of a sudden her boss
She mind-linked with...
Yeah. She mind-linked that, yeah, they can all do that apparently in that organization.
Well, that's
she's telling her boss that, and then her boss, tells everybody else, like...
His name's Aramaki, by the way.
Yeah. He's like, well, we're gonna take him down, but also be alert you're all targets. Mm-hmm. So then it just has a little scene of each agent being attacked, and of course they just kill everybody anyway.
Yeah.
Like, none of the agents get hurt. So the suspense of that was nil.
Yeah.
And then, he gets attacked. That's his one action scene, or Aramashi. He's in his car, like he's gonna drive away, and he knows they're gonna shoot him, and he has like a bulletproof case, which I don't understand how he did not get hit once, because bullets went through the windshield, like the side window.
As soon as they hit, he ducked sideways because he was in. I know it doesn't, but just saying.
Yeah, but they totally turn his car into Swiss cheese. He gets out without a single bullet wound on him, and to protect himself, he just opens the briefcase and holds it in front of him. So basically, from his belly button down to his feet is completely exposed, and everybody just keeps shooting the briefcase anyway. Mm-hmm. I was just like, aim down. And then he kills them all with a revolver with which I guess has 6 bullets, but has like 20 shots in it.
Yeah,
he took more than 6 shots. He takes them all out. So then there's the suspense of that. You don't have to worry about that anymore. Mm-hmm. And then he's like, well, I'm going to go to the prime minister, and I'm going to tell him all this stuff this guy was doing, and I'm getting him thrown in jail. And I'm like, you worked for him. You knew what he was like. You knew about her past. You had to have, because you knew it. Like, you kept her from actually finding things out at certain points in the film. So you had to know. So now all of a sudden you're on this like, oh, I'm the righteous one, and I'm going to do the right thing all of a sudden. And
in all fairness, it was more, I'm trying to even remember the project number, like
2571.
Yeah.
I can't, they said it a million times.
Yeah, it's toward the beginning. And then it was like none to be heard of after that point. But, mostly the people that were involved in that project, which was, by the way, the project of them even making cyborg people in the first place.
Yeah.
Like, they were more or less, like, in the know with all of that. And it wasn't so much, Aramaki, I can't even remember now.
We'll call him Captain A.
We'll just call him Takeshi. Aramaki, I think.
You could just call him by his actor name. That's fine.
Yeah. He didn't know all of that, per se. Like, he knew she had a past.
Right.
He didn't know what it was. So you can't really blame him for that.
What I can blame him for is deciding that he's going to stop this guy, like, because he goes into his office to arrest him. He's like, "You're wanted for multiple counts of murder."
He's arresting Cutter,
like,
by the way. That's what
Cutter,
he's talking about.
He's like, "You're under arrest for all this murder," and and I'm like, "Well, wait a minute."
Yeah.
And that goes back to the other point we were talking about, like the hacker. I can't remember his name. Kusei. He's doing all of this because he was one of the first in the experiment to have a ghost put into a machine, and he didn't go the way they wanted, so they were going to kill him.
He was a failure.
Yeah, he was a failure. So, but he got out. Mm-hmm. And he decided he was going to create his own reality, his own network reality.
Yeah, using human minds.
By using human minds, which basically makes them dead.
Yeah, they're like batteries for the Matrix.
Right. So he's killing multiple amounts of people to get back at the 5 people that wronged him, because he says, "Oh, what they're doing is wrong and they're killing tons of people." So it's like, wait a minute.
What are you doing?
You're killing tons of people. Like, it just... And I know it was that way before, but it still made no sense to me at all, ever. Like, it's like you're righting wrongs with wrongs, and you're trying to look like this guy who's on this righteous crusade, but you're just as big of a dick as they are. Mm-hmm. So, well, we gotta wrap it up. So, then there's the scene that I think everybody remembers from the original where the spider tank shows up. Because honestly, that's the biggest spectacle that happens in the whole thing. And when that showed up in this, I was like, oh, thank God something's happening.
And then you saw the spider tank.
Yeah. And then you see the spider tank, and it looks like a flattened version of Grimace with fucking just red eyes that are in the shape of symbols for whatever fucking reason. It makes no fucking sense.
And it has spider legs. Big whoop.
Yeah. It doesn't look like the spider tank in the anime. So if you were hoping to see that in real life, you're screwed.
No, it's disappointing.
Yeah, it looked stupid. So that thing shows up. Even though it looked stupid, there was still action going on. Even though the action still seemed kind of bleh. Like, he just shoots a lot, shoots some missiles, they blow up, and you're like, well, I know nobody's dead, so...
And by the way, Cutter ends up taking, like, manual control of this spider tank from the midst of his office, even though the spider tank is in the middle of this, like... Where basically they used to live, and the pagoda's in the center and all that good jazz.
Yeah, that's where it all takes place. She goes back there, which I didn't think it was that way in the original, but...
She does end up getting split from the group, in a sense, and she does have a battle with a spider tank in this, like, watery graveyard of a place.
But here's where it completely differs from the original, is the ending of this. Mm-hmm. Like, the spider tank shows up, she's talking with Kuze, they both understand who they are and why, she's like, I get what you're doing, even though she shouldn't let him go for what he did.
Yeah. They find their real names scribbled on their wall.
Scribbled in the pagoda. Then they're like, they exchange their names, and then the spider tank blows it up. They get thrown out. Kuze's badly damaged. Major just has some scratches on her, which is like, yeah, why wouldn't she? So she's like trying to keep the spider tank from killing Kuze, and she's running around, and then she gets on top of it. And then, that's the one thing out of this whole thing that kind of seems like it was from the anime. She's trying to rip basically the control mechanism out of it. Mm-hmm. And so she her arm comes off because she uses so much power that it rips her arm off. And she throws it away, she stops the machine, and then they're just both laying there on the ground. He's asking her to come with him. And she's like, I think I belong here. Things make sense now. I'm going to stay. Mm-hmm. He's like, well, I'll always be with you. And then a sniper shoots him in the head.
Shows up and shoots him in the head. Yeah. Yep.
So, and that's completely different because in the original, I believe Kuze both had Bato and her basically almost half under his control.
Yeah.
And the sniper actually took her head off to stop him, and then did shoot him eventually. But yeah, the sniper like basically kills her, and Bato kind of just gets out of it because of that.
Yeah. If I recall, like Major and the hacker, which by the way, he was called the Puppet Master.
Yeah.
In the anime.
Well, they did.
They kind
I think
like
they did
their
call
ghosts.
Him that.
No, they didn't.
Oh, they didn't call him.
They
that
called
at
him
all?
Kuze.
Okay.
Their ghosts kind of fused, so they became one entity, and that's kind of like. But she was still her, but she had him in her. Right,
and I guess that's too much for American audiences.
Yeah, I guess that was that was far beyond. Our American comprehension.
Yeah.
So they dumbed it as far down as they possibly could have for this movie.
Yeah, and it's stupid how it ends, too, because it's just like, they shoot him in the head, and they're gonna shoot her, and then Bato's, like, on a building somewhere, and he has, like, his sniper scope hooked up to his eyeball, and he shoots the helicopter, or the plane down.
It's a helicopter.
Well, yeah, he shoots the thing down that has the snipers in it, and then he's there in, like, literally 2 seconds. Mm-hmm. It helps her up off the ground, and then that's basically it. Like, it kind of goes forward. They fix her up. She's monologuing about how, I know who I am now, and I know why I'm here, and da-da-da-da-da, and then it's like, I am Major. And they're like, go in. She's like on top of another building, and he's like, you have authority, go in.
Yeah.
And she jumps off the building, end of the movie. Yeah. Like, it was so... even the climax didn't have a climax to it. Like, it
was very lull.
The whole stream of the movie is just bleh.
Yep.
It's just there to say that you did it and to show off some of the nice camera tricks and graphics that you worked into it. It's a visual spectacle, but it's a horrible story.
Yeah.
It's the worst. I think so far it's... Out of the past 2 years that I've been seeing some films and doing shows like this, it's probably one of the most lazily written things I've seen that's supposed to be taken seriously and isn't a comedy. Mm-hmm. I
agree. I was very disappointed. I was actually hoping because, and I mean no offense when I say this, I really wasn't the biggest fan of the Ghost in the Shell anything.
Well, no, it wasn't for everybody.
No, when I had first been exposed to it, I was in high school, and I don't know, it just didn't really appeal to me that much. I know that there are people out there that are diehard fans for it, and I'm really sorry that this did it no justice, none at all.
The diehard fans are going to be pissed. I don't know who this movie was to cater, honestly, because it's not catering fans.
And
it's not catering ignorant people that don't know anything about it. Mm-hmm. And it's not catering action or sci-fi, honestly. Like, sci-fi visually, but storytelling not. No. It's bad. So, I think I said before a 4 and you said a 3.5, so it's on the really low end of the scale, but we gotta wrap this up. We're almost going on the 40 minutes here.
Wow.
So, yeah, time flies. Yeah.
When you're bashing a bad movie.
Yeah, but that was Ghost in the Shell. Don't see it unless you really feel like you need to. Mm-hmm. If you I still say don't see it. Wait till it comes out on something you can rent it cheaper. So I think that'll wrap up this show. Down in the annotations below is all the places you can contact me. If you like this episode, please share it around with your friends. Leave in the comments what you thought about Ghost in the Shell, and say hi to Jamie on Facebook.
Hi.
She's on there, and I will see you all in the next movie. See you guys.